Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Hey guys, Professor Bill, Comic Book University. We're going to do a little bit of a commentary right now. And I'm going to try and do a couple more things like this because I enjoy talking about the social commentary of what's going on. And I know there's a lot of people who don't agree with me politically or religiously or otherwise, whatever. Can we just have our differences? That's really what I'm hoping for. That we can actually try to together create a world where we can just be okay with each other's differences. I'm going to be talking about a lot of topics, but the main the crux of this conversation is because I see a tweet by Tim Seeley. He calls himself Hackin' Tim Seeley, at Hackin' Tim Seeley. He's got a thing right now where it says, Tim Seeley, pretend there's a blue check mark here. Cool. If that blue check mark is that important to you. I don't know. I don't put a lot of value on things like that. But, if you do, we can just have our differences. Anyway, I guess because all his friends have blue check marks and he doesn't for some odd reason. Look, I don't know Tim Seeley. I've never interviewed him. I've never talked with him. Judging by this tweet, it looks like he's somebody who wants to be a good person. Is he a good person? I don't know. Like I just said, I don't freaking know him. Like, were you not paying attention? My point is, he seems like somebody who wants to be a good person, who wants to do the right thing, right? So I don't hold anything against him necessarily, but let me read the tweet to you. And it seems to come out of nowhere. I don't see this as a reply to anything. I literally just see this tweet out of the thin blue sky, all right? I think maybe one problem is that people will complain that there aren't enough superhero comics accessible to new readers. And then, when you make one, they tell you they hate it because it doesn't reward longtime readers. This is interesting, to say the least. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with the tweet. I don't even necessarily think there's anything wrong with the thinking pattern here. And I'm far from the first person to ever argue that you have to have right think. I hate that. I have two favorite books. One is Dune. The other one is 1984. All right? If you know anything about 1984, the whole, controlling people's speech allows you to control people's thoughts. That's important. That's extremely important. I despise the idea of controlling people's thoughts. So therefore, I hate when people try to control people's language. And I'm an English teacher. I'll red pen your ass in a heartbeat. Hell, I got one right here. Let's go. All right. But I do think that the process of thinking here is a little bit off. Tim Seeley is a Marvel Comics writer and DC Comics writer. He's a writer for comic books. All right, does independent stuff too, I'm sure. I know I've read some of his stuff. I'm sure I've liked some of his stuff. I'm sure I've disliked some of his stuff. And I'm wise enough or seasoned enough, maybe a little sprinkling of both, who knows, to recognize that if I like something that he did, then it's probably because he put a lot of thought and effort into it, a lot of who he is into the book. And if I disliked the book or sided on disliking it, there was probably a lot more executive control there than there was creative freedom there. Now, we all need creative freedom. We need that. If as writers or any kind of artist, whether it's a drawing artist or a writing artist or sculptor, whatever, all right? If you do any kind of art, you have to have that creative freedom, but it also has to be reined in. It needs to be. Otherwise, you have Brian Michael Bendis. Brian Michael Bendis is one of the greatest creative minds out there. I don't care what anybody thinks. That's my thought on it. He's one of the most creative minds out there. But for the love of God, he's got to be reined in sometimes. He's got to be able to be told no. And he has to learn how to accept no as an answer once in a while. It's just the way that the world works. Likewise, Bendis is a guy who wants to do good things. He wants inclusion and diversity. And for crying out loud, how can anybody fault somebody for wanting that, desiring that, thinking that, trying to perpetrate that on the world? Why would that be a bad thing? But when you're looking at it from a creative context and we're readers and we're reading some of the things just seem, forced. So you can have a problem with the way that it's presented. Most people aren't going to have a problem with what is presented, simply the way that it's presented. It doesn't mean that somebody's racist because of this, that, or the other thing, and sexist and transphobic and anti-LGBTQ. I already said the T, right? Look, people can have different thoughts, and there are many reasons for these different thoughts. It's not just some of it is our upbringing. Some of it's the logic that we've applied to things. It's not just our life experiences. Sometimes it's the way that people react to the way that we look. If the first time that you openly express a thought, somebody cultivates it and says, "Oh, okay, interesting," whatever the thought is, then you're probably more likely to push forward that thought. But if a different person, like a mean-hearted person, says, "That's just ridiculous," and blue hair rage screams at you, either of those things, both of those things, they will shape your thoughts, right? I promise you, all of this relates to Tim Seeley's tweet. The idea here is that Tim, in my opinion, my observation is looking at this as, I'm trying to do a thing, and I have one-on-one interactions with my bosses. And there's only but so much I can say against my bosses. Maybe Tim wants to do this amazing thing and move on with it, and boom, we're good, right? Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he agrees with everything that the bosses say. Maybe he's a yes man. Like I said, I don't know Tim Seeley. But what I do know is it always seems to be a lot easier to go against, and it doesn't have to mean raging against or insulting or any kind of pejorative. It could just mean going against, just kind of having that divisiveness with the audience. But the audience is never the problem. I'm being dead serious when I say that. Even if you bring Comicsgate into this, which to me does come across as more hateful than anything else. All right? A lot of really solid points coming out of Comicsgate. But the way that it is presented, it just comes off as really bad. And there are toxic people all over the world. Comicsgaters have too much toxicity in it for my taste. Way too much. But some of the points they make, if we're being fair, they make sense. Right? We could talk about how bad this person is, that person is, whatever, but we could say the same thing about every single person in the world. And I'm not here to defend anybody per se. Right? Like I said, I don't know Tim Seeley. What I do know is how this tweet is presented and how he's responding to some people. Mitch Gerards, another comic book artist. He's an artist specifically. Modern reading habits have changed so much as well. When we were youths, you'd pick up a book right in the middle of an arc or wherever, or whenever. No, whatever, and be totally cool with it. Second tweet. To be honest, it's kind of a curse that we're so well-versed now. I miss the magic of dollar bins, dollar boxes surprising me left and right. And then there's Ron Mars, who, one of the most brilliant writers out there, like his Silver Surfer run was amazing. But he says, are you saying some people like to complain regardless? And then a GIF image of someone going, oh, like that. He might still be upset at Gail Kim. And if he's not upset at Gail Kim, then he's not upset at Gail Kim. I honestly don't know. But Gail Kim did become super duper famous because she was critical of something that he just happened to have perpetrated at the time. Think about it. The whole woman in a refrigerator thing, right? She quoted it. It was obviously about what, he did with, what was it, Green Lantern #1, where we see the new Green Lantern, Kyle Rayner. He suddenly gets the motivation to go out and kick ass and take names because his girlfriend is killed and stuffed into a refrigerator. And she wasn't directly criticizing him. But she used that as the most recent example where it's like the motivation of a man doesn't always have to be that his girlfriend is killed. And we've seen this, and it's true. We've seen this in movies. We've seen this a whole bunch of other places. It's not the only thing that motivates me. It's certainly not how Luke Skywalker was motivated. That was his aunt and his uncle. Uncle Owen, Aunt Beru, why are you so singed, right? It doesn't always have to be a death or a murder or something like that. It doesn't always have to be done to a woman in order for that to be the motivator that causes, somebody to do this. I mean, and we still see it to this day. The most recent Rambo movie, right? The worst of the Rambo movies, for crying out loud. We see things like that. And I'm not here to defend Gail Kim, and I'm not here to defend Ron Mars. I'm not here to defend Mitch Gerards or Tim Seeley. What I'm here to do is just simply to be the anti-voice, so to speak. The voice that's not really a voice. The voice that's more of a thought than anything else. I'm going to read the tweet again. I think maybe one problem is that people will complain that there aren't enough superhero comics accessible to new readers. And then, when you make one, they tell you they hate it because it doesn't reward longtime readers. I would like to draw your attention now to West Coast Avengers. The most recent run of West Coast Avengers at the time of the making of this video was actually by Kelly Thompson, one of my absolute favorite writers, because there is no one in the industry who I have come across who has better dialogue than she. She made the West Coast Avengers comic book. She had Kate Bishop was the head of the West Coast Avengers, right? Who is not a long-time hero, but she's been in the hero business for a long time. You get what I'm saying? She's not one of the Silver or even Bronze Age characters. She's a fairly recent creation, but she's been around long enough, and she's had a good story. The Matt Fraction storyline, right? She's had enough storylines. Nowadays, she's in the freaking Hawkeye TV series, which had better get a season 2, damn it. But she's been around long enough, so she's a good in-between, right? But then you have other characters who have showed up in there some who are newer, some who are a little bit older, right? But you've got a pretty decent team there. Unfortunately, none of the older characters really want to join. Hawkeye was there, right? Most of the time. Hawkeye, the proper Hawkeye, not Kate Bishop. Hawk Girl, I don't know what you want to call her anyway. Because Hawk Guy. So there, Hawk Guy. Hawkeye was there as opposed to Hawk Girl. All right. That was good. So there was the blend, but then there were also some brand new characters who she created. The guy with he always kept the little vibranium facial studs in his face, in his mouth, because he was able to utilize that to transform his body into something else. And he had vibranium right there all the time. So it was like, yeah, great idea. Great idea. Every time I've done a face rip game, a superheroes role-playing game system, somebody always comes up with that kind of an idea, right? It's like, oh, I want to have body transformation powers, and I want to keep adamantium on me so that I can transform into adamantium at any moment. All right, let's go. Look, for me, I think that was just one of the best books that there was. And Kelly had some pushback, sometimes from the fans, but also from the executive side. There were some things she wasn't allowed to do, right? There was a little bit too much representation in her book, but she created some new characters in there, some new characters that could have gone into a bigger showing, but we'll never see that now. Why? Is it because the fans didn't buy the book? I don't think enough fans knew about the book. We can't blame fans for not wanting to spend their disposable income on a brand new book with characters they're mostly not familiar with, right? Sometimes it's going to take a Marvel or a DC or whatever, one of the big two or somebody who's willing to say, hey man, let's do something totally awesome. Let's do something new. And you know what? Besides the pushback from the executive office where no, you can't do this, that, or whatever thing, we're going to guarantee you 12 issues. Instead of just, you never know when you're going to be cut. You never know when we're going to say you can't go anymore. If they could say something like, listen, 1 issue a month, and we guarantee you a full year of putting this stuff out, You want to throw in an extra book? You want to throw in an annual? You want to throw in a little side story or something like that? You want to try and get some crossovers with, some of your friends in the industry? Go for it. But I'm going to give you 1 year of continuous support for this comic book, even if we're losing money. It's going to take some balls. It's going to take some balls. And that has absolutely nothing to do with the fans. Maybe you can't put the comic book out there. Maybe Marvel doesn't know how to advertise a comic book, right? There are plenty of ways. You got the Hawkeye TV series that was out there. Why couldn't West Coast Avengers still been there and then have Kate Bishop reading a West Coast Avengers comic book by Kelly Thompson? Why not? Right? Kelly's not going to make a freaking appearance on the show. She's a reclusive Sasquatch type. All right, she's not going to do something like that. I love Kelly Thompson. You know what I'm saying? But that being said, have it where you have a quick little advertisement on the, like when you're going through the credits and whatnot, throw a couple of images of the comics in the background while the credits are rolling, while we're waiting for the end credits scene that may or may not appear. All right, there's so many ways to do it. Advertising other comics more than they've been. I don't know if there were too many advertisements. There was maybe one, but there weren't that many. Dude, right now, I go on Comixology and I look through to see what's going available. And if something catches me, I don't sit there and read every single, title and scroll open and everything like that. I'll simply look, I'll look at the covers really quick. I'll get a quick glance at what I can see from the cover or of the title without actually hovering my mouse over it, which will let it go, bigger. I don't go to the comic book stores anymore. They're all shut down for the most part by me. Most of them, and I just can't. I can't. Too busy right now. All right? I haven't been to the comic book store in a while. It hurts my heart, but it is what it is. And even then, there's a lot of comics there. There's always going to be somebody else who wants to look at this stuff too. You can't just stay there and stare at this big wall of comics. There's so many things that get in the way of the viewer. You can never, ever, let me emphasize this, ever, possibly even one more time for the people in the back, freaking ever blame the fans. So no, Mr. Seeley, no. You are going to get a 1,000 different bits of feedback just on Twitter alone. I'm looking at this thing, 203 likes. That's feedback. If you were advertising your comic book more, maybe it would be a different conversation. Maybe you actually judge, of the people who follow me on Twitter, of the people who have seen the proper use of hashtags that I use on Twitter to get the message out. Can I get this trending? Right? There are ways. Do I want to pay to have it trending with anybody who would look up comics or new comic book day? Right? What do you want to put into it? But you can't just put something out there and say, oh, it's the fans' fault. No, never, ever is it the fans' fault. It is never the fans' fault. And I will say that this is false thinking. This is wrong thinking. Just by your tweet alone, right now, which has been up for, I don't know how long. There we go. Since 11:42, and it's 2:24 right now. All right? So for that amount of time, 203 likes, 3 quote tweets, 25 retweets, bunch of replies. This is one of the ways that you advertise what you're doing. As a person with a degree in a bachelor's degree in business with a specialty in marketing, I can honestly tell you, if people don't see my videos, it's my own fault. It's never anybody else's fault. You're going to get some people who are going to say, oh, wow, yeah, awesome. You're going to get a bunch of people who are just going to ignore it and be like, or they're going to look at it and be like, oh, that was really cool, but they're not going to say anything. You're going to get some people who are going to like. You're going to get some people who are going to dislike. You're going to, on YouTube at least, not on here. There's no dislikes necessarily. There are going to be people who are going to comment positively. There are going to be people who comment nonchalantly. There's going to be people who comment in a horrible way. Those are the ones that stick with you the most. Myself included, right? I can be a pretty sensitive person sometimes when somebody's giving what I believe is really bad criticism. And sometimes I do have to rein myself back. I have to be like, motherfucker, what did you say? Did you not listen to anything that I just said? I just be like, you know what? It's a case of mind over matter. I don't mind because that person doesn't matter. If that person didn't pay attention to what I said, that's on that person. All I can do is put out what I put out. That's it. That's it. If I covered something and they didn't hear it, if their sister was yelling at them, or their mom was yelling at them, their wife was yelling, whatever, was yelling at them from the background, and they missed that part, right? If the noise of them picking their nose caused them, the dog was barking, I don't know, I don't care. It's not my business. All I can do is put out what I put out. Somebody wants to say, you missed this. Did I miss it, or did I just not choose to put it? According to you, I missed it, so I missed it. From your perspective, I missed it. That's on you. That's on you. Do I not know something, or did I simply choose not to mention the thing? Right? What is it? I get people like, not enough images in your video. I put out the free images that the comic book company puts out. I'm not going to go online and illegally download a bunch of other images and put them up. You know what I'm saying? And illegal or not, whether it's enforced or not, honestly, I don't care. I'm not here to give you an entire comic book. Go out and buy the comic book yourself, you freaking cheapskate. Get a better job and go out and get the freaking comic book yourself. Like, I can't be bothered with the people. It's a maturity thing. It really is. It really is. I have been very immature with certain people when they criticize in a way that I just look at and I say, this person has completely missed the plot. This person doesn't understand something, and I don't know who the readers are. This person may have a mental handicap. And if I go and I put this person on blast, it's like, dude, do you not pay attention to blah, 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 blah? I may have insulted somebody with a mental handicap. What a jerk am I? Now I'm the total jerk, right? I don't know. I'll never know. I can't possibly know. So the best thing to do, read it and ignore it. Or don't even read it. Usually I just read it and ignore it. If I see somebody say something and it comes off as rude to me, or it comes off as, like you really weren't paying attention to anything, or you completely missed the point I was trying to make, or whatever, it's none of my business. It's not my problem. It's their problem. They felt the need to air that out. I hope they feel better. I hope they saved some money on a therapy session. You know what I'm saying? I hope they feel better about themselves. It is what it is. But for me to sit here and blame the fans for a video not being popular, or a channel not being popular, or in this case, Tim Seeley, blaming the fans for a comic book not being popular, Mr. Seeley, that reflects on you far more than it reflects on the fans. And it's my opinion it reflects back on the company you're working for more than anything else. Because they don't trust you enough to put out a book with a new character and let it go longer. I have argued this for a long time. And the creators have gotten back to me, and they were very, very kind about it, very grateful for what I did. But that video that I put out, the Mosaic, explained in a minute, and when I covered the comic book, I reviewed the comic book itself. I loved that comic book. I loved the character. I thought he was a great character. And I believe that if Marvel would have had more faith in the work of these creators, the writer and the artist, I think that the character of Mosaic could have been something. But they haven't done anything with Mosaic since. I have yet to see anything from Mosaic since. Oh, what was that, like 5 issues, maybe 6? Did it go to 8? It might have even gone to 8, but whatever it is. And then 4 issues, not even 4 full issues, but a couple issues where he was in the Inhumans versus X-Men thing, which was one of the worst freaking comic books out there, right? It was a horrible thing. People simply didn't like what they were doing with the Inhumans. You tried, you failed. I'm talking about Marvel. I'm talking about the creators. I'm talking about whoever was involved in that stuff. You tried, you failed. People clearly didn't want the Inhumans over the X-Men. This was a Marvel ploy, and they weren't even man enough, all right, human enough. They weren't even man enough to admit, yeah, we're only pushing the Inhumans because the freaking X-Men don't belong to us in the movies anymore. Well, now they do. So now they're pushing X-Men again, and people are happy. Well, now would be a good time to also see, hey, are the people actually interested in the Inhumans? No, instead you have Donny Cates write the death of the Inhumans. God damn it. Like, are you kidding me at this point? And this was a while ago, I get it, but it's about just paying attention to what is squeaky chair? What is this? It's about just paying attention to what's actually happening in the world. Get a pulse, right? Lick your thumb and check the breeze to see, am I going to hit a drive or am I going to do a chip? You know what I'm saying? And I barely know anything about golf, but they were my references, okay? My point is, blaming the fans for not seeing something is the absolute wrong thing. First off, it's going to get a bunch of people resentful for you. There's going to be a bunch of, with all due respect, dick riders who are going to be more than happy to be like, yeah, all these racist people out there, because we are so divisive. And when you ride a divisive line, you've lost everything. And that's what I'm afraid of. I hope that that's not who Tim Seeley is. Like I said, I don't know the man. But if that's who he is, he's no better than what he would think that a comic skater is. He's no better than anybody out there. He's actually one of the worst. When there was when Hurricane, what the hell was it? I was in Saudi Arabia when it happened, but the hurricane that happened in, Hurricane Sandy, that happened in New Jersey. I was in Saudi Arabia at the time. My mom had to call me when she was finally able to get the phones to work and everything like that. She called me up and it's like, what do I do? What do I do? All the food stores are shut down. We're in a state of emergency. We're not really allowed to be on the road. I don't have food in the house. The water isn't coming out, right? 2 weeks later, when the water did start working again, it was poisonous. It was non-potable. They said, don't drink the water, Quickly wash your dishes with it. Don't, and make sure it air dries, really good, really well, right? She didn't know what to do. I know about prep stuff. I know about survival things, what I'm saying, from my military experience. She doesn't. So she was just, oh my God, and panicking and whatnot, right? So I'm glad that the electricity and all that stuff wasn't working, because she wasn't able to see Ted Cruz, the senator from Texas, say, yeah, well, they're liberals over there. I think they should just, we shouldn't be giving them government aid. You fat piece of dog crap, you. You piece of garbage. You freaking waste of life. And then when something bad happens to Texas and a reporter says, hey, I forget what was that? Not Katrina. Whatever. Was it Katrina? Whatever. Whatever freaking hurricane came by and screwed up Texas. All of a sudden, the reporter goes and asks him that. And he says, oh, I don't think, you're bringing up the New Jersey. I don't think now's the time to be doing stuff like that. But you said that while this was happening. And look, Ted Cruz is a piece of human garbage. And right now, nobody likes him. Fox doesn't like him. CNN doesn't like him. Nobody likes him. Screw Ted Cruz, all right? Ted Cruz can burn. You know what I'm saying? The point is that there were people who agreed with him that New Jersey shouldn't be helped. If New Jersey couldn't be helped, if the government's not going to help New Jersey in a time of crisis, well, then here's what I recommend. New Jersey should secede from the Union. Now, there are no calls for that, but that would hurt the hell. That would hurt the hell out of the rest of the country, because a lot of money comes from New Jersey. In fact, outside of California, I don't know about now, but it used to be that aside from California, because they have Silicon Valley there, New Jersey was the second highest tech development. I used to work for Lucent Technologies, the biggest granddaddy of them all, the most innovative, I should say, of the tech sector services that were out there. Lucent Incorporated, look them up. I used to work for Lucent. If New Jersey took all of their stuff and said, hey, we're going to make this a tax haven for the tech industry and we're just going to help ourselves, the rest of the country would suffer. There are people who say whenever there's a wildfire or and this still relates to Tim Seeley, a wildfire or a drought or an earthquake that affects California, let them burn. California is the fifth richest economy in the world. The fifth richest economy in the world, not state in the union. No, it's the first richest state in the union. It's the fifth richest economy in the freaking world. The economy in California is stronger than pretty much every other country in the world. That's how powerful California is. If California should decide to secede from the union because you say they shouldn't get government funding, they shouldn't be allowed to use their own funding, they shouldn't be able to say, oh, we're going to stop using our funding for whatever. Bro, If California seceded from the Union, the majority of the rest of the country is fucked. But that's how apathetic we've gotten. And there are people who will say the same thing about Texas. And Texas has wanted to secede from the Union. Texas wouldn't do very well seceding from the Union. They wouldn't. It would suddenly become a robber baron state. You just look at the economy there, right? But the tech industry could potentially be prevalent over the oil industry. Who knows? Who knows? But the idea, but in that case, would be the exact same thing with Alaska. My point is that if we weren't the United States anymore, because we're not going to help each other out anymore, then there's no point in the United States. That's the whole point of the word united in there. And that's just the states. There's also the UK, the United Kingdom, which is not just one place. It's a bunch of places all put together. Canada, not right here in Canada, not every place is ceded territory. Most of this country is unceded territory, right? To just sit back and look at the idea of how apathetic we've gotten. And you can look at the Black Lives Matter things, both sides, I'm not joking, both sides of that. We're so quick to demonize somebody. I just talked about an entire population. Let's talk about individuals. Bill Cosby, the most powerful man on TV, the best dad in the world. Turns out he rapes women. That's bad. Is Bill Cosby himself bad? That's up to you to decide. If you know the history of Bill Cosby and all the good that he has done, consistently, all the good that he has done, not just for Philadelphia, but for the country, possibly the world, all the good that he has done. But it turns out he also rapes women. What was it, 30 women, 34 women? I was so shocked. I was in denial for the longest time. I thought there's no way. But that's what happens when you have, hero worship, idol worship, right? And if you think that Bill Cosby is a horrible example, how about Martin Luther King Jr.? He was a really great man. Look at all the wonderful things he did. He cheated on his wife. Coretta Scott King, not okay with it, but she forgave it, She rationalized it. But for all intents and purposes, he wasn't a great man, no, he was a great man. But according to some people, by those standards, he wouldn't be a great man because he cheated on his wife. Gandhi, right? Oh, wait, Gandhi screwed kids. Gandhi had sex with underage kids, called them his daughters. He was banging them. He was banging them. You know what I'm saying? But he brought peace to India and Pakistan and the entire Desi continent. Yes, he did. He was a great man. But he also happened to sleep with kids. Look, it's a hell of a world we live in where nobody's perfect. But when you focus on the bad of somebody, you can't completely demonize a person. I don't even believe in demons, right? So you can't demonize a person. And if you do, you do. It brings up your apathy. It raises your apathy and makes it so that you can say, yeah, the people in New Jersey should suffer because I don't like their politics. The people in Texas should suffer because I don't like their politics. California should burn and die in drought and be dropped into the freaking sea because I don't like their faces, whatever. And it's not just in America, for crying out loud. Ask Mexico what the rest of Latin America thinks of them. You think Trump was bad? Ask the rest of Latin America what they think of Mexico. And they'll tell you. Bro, the apathy that we have for each other as humans is ridiculous. And it is completely contrary to what we need to be as a society, as a community, a global village, if you will. We're never going to get to the part of world peace. We're never going to be able to fend off the evil aliens. Why do they have to be evil too? But maybe they are. Maybe they're completely apathetic to us, and we'd have to be to them in order to survive. Who knows? They're UFOs now. You have to consider these things. There were never UFOs before. Now they're actually UFOs. The government's admitted it. I'm trying to be silly and bring some humor to this, but this is the world we live in, where we can be so apathetic to other people. Look, Tim Seeley. Without knowing him, I love him. If I ever met him, I'd give him a bro hug like a mother fathead. You know what I'm saying? Just as I would do to anybody who was consensual with it. You know what I'm saying? High five, a fist bump, whatever. I love you. I love the world. I love the world. Do I trust the world? Nah. But I love you guys. I love you guys. Respect is earned. It's not given. And that goes both ways. But we should start with respect. That doesn't mean that you disrespect the person, because disrespect is given. It's not earned in the beginning. Disrespect is never per se earned, because you could just walk away from that person. You don't have to disrespect that person. You don't have to make it worse. I got the jab. I got all the jabs. I'm looking into getting my booster and all that good stuff. My buddy, one of my very close friends, a childhood friend, can't get it because of acute pancreatitis. He would die if he got the jab. So legally, he actually has, it's not one of these, people, I have an unseen medical condition that no doctor can give me a prescription for, but I can't wear a mask and stuff. No. He masks up. He does all that stuff. He gets the N95 because he knows that he can't get the jab. But the anti-jab people, the people who are against the people who don't want to get the jab and whatnot, we can't just lump everybody into these things. We can't be like this. The world is not black and white. Stop letting elite people tell you that the world is black and white. Bro, this is all stemming from the Tim Seeley thing. We're better than this. And we need to be. Because when the zombie apocalypse come up, that's true. That's true. I don't know if there's going to be a zombie apocalypse, but I didn't think there were going to be freaking aliens. Apparently they're aliens. If they're UFOs, or have to be aliens. So who knows? There could be zombies. Maybe it's Plan 9 from outer space, right? The aliens are going to make the zombies. I don't know. I'm along for the ride at this point. But real talk, like to me, a zombie would be the example of perfect apathy. That we can't be like this. We can't hate the people on the other side of the fence. We got to get along with each other. All right? I think that Tim Seeley, if we were ever in private and had a private conversation, the mano a mano thing, I think that he would acknowledge that, yeah, the big companies give him more pushback than the fans do. I genuinely believe he would, because I can't see how he wouldn't. Maybe he could change my mind on that. Maybe he could show me some tweets or text or whatever that he's gotten. I don't know. But what I do know is there are ways to appeal to the fans. And you should be blaming yourself long before you blame the fans. I'm dead serious about that. You blame yourself. That's what men do. Humans, not people with penises. That's what men, human beings, mankind, that's what men do. You put the blame on yourself. You say, how did I screw up? Instead of, why are you all evil? What did I do wrong? What can I do better? Before you turn around and start to look, it's just a thought that he's putting out there on Twitter. But the problem is Twitter's a huge place, and it's kind of toxic. And I don't know Tim Seeley. I think I've emphasized that once or twice before. But it almost feels like he's trying to appeal to the people who are on his side in this regard. I don't think that this is going to help anything. I really don't. Some of his replies, I look at some of his replies on here. They're what appeared to me to be good, meaning people. I didn't reply on this because I'm replying here. I think that people are interested in new characters. And you can introduce these new characters in a team book, as Kelly Thompson did. And you can have old-time players there, newer time players, so you're appealing to multiple generations of readers. Now, if you have Iron Man on a team or whatever, somebody else who's, a long time on the team, have Ant-Man on the team, Giant Man, right? Have Hank Pym on a team. Stop this Ultron thing. Have him on a team. And have, the Wasp also. Boom, do that. Not just appearing once in a while. Have Tigra, whatever you want to call her. Have Tigra on a team. But then also have a Gwenpool on the team. One of the newer-ish Kate Bishop type characters on the team. Boom, do that. Miles, right? The most famous example of them all, Kamala Khan, right? Ms. Marvel. Have them on the team. And then you want to have a brand new character on the team also. Boom. Hey, throw Mosaic on the damn team. We need to see more Mosaic. He's an amazing character. Do something like that. And then give the fans time to come onto the book. Give them time. I'll advertise the book. If I see it and it appeals to me, if the cover and all the stuff and the price, if it appeals to me, I'll check it out. I'll put it out there, right? Get better on Twitter. Advertise yourself. Put it out there. Look at what Ryan Stegman did with the Venom series. Better than Watchmen, right? He's talking to Donny Cates and he's like, yeah, Joe Quesada's like, dude, how do we replicate that? He's like, you can't replicate that because you can't replicate Ryan Stegman. You know what I'm saying? He happened to put something out there that was just amazing, and people were just like, what? It caused so much of it, and it caused the sales of Venom to just, boom, explode. Ryan Stegman had more to do with that than Donny Cates did, and Donny acknowledged that on the thing, and all the love in the world to Donny, one of the future writers of comic books, one of the, if he could just get his head out of his ass and just stop writing what other people wrote and just write his own thing, because I love when he writes his own thing. Stop writing other people's stuff. But if you can't blame your bosses, then you don't blame the fans. You don't. And I'm saying a year as the minimum. Why not 18 months? They're owned by Disney. You're telling me that Disney can't afford to have a couple of comic books that aren't making any money? You're telling me they can't afford that? Is that what you're going to honestly sit there and tell me? No, they could. They can. You have to have the right people to talk to them and say, we need a better budget. And Kevin Feige's right there. He's the guy who you would talk to. He's in charge of Marvel Comics at this point. Get a meeting with him. Bring him a hat as a present. The guy loves hats. Get him a hat. Make a hat. Make a hat that's unique. And be like, there's only one hat like this in the world, and this is your hat. By the way, like just whatever you got to do, man. Maybe as a marketer, I think of this stuff and nobody else thinks about it. I don't know. Free advice. If you like the advice, it's free. You don't like the advice, it was still free. But for the love of God, blaming the fans is just more division. And it's not going to help things. I'm about to end this video now. You can probably see that by the thing about to end, but 222 likes. Still 3 quote tweets. Instead of 23 retweets, 26 retweets. It's pretty much reached its peak, right? Ryan, maybe they're just not that into you. Or maybe you're simply not advertising the right way. A very important lesson my father told me about being successful in business is you got to have money you got to spend money to make money. And yes, you have to have money in order to spend money. But you got to have money to make money. If you're going to make a comic book and you want that comic book to reach the biggest audience you possibly can, one, you got to spend some money on it. And if it's not you, then it's somebody else. And if you don't want to spend money on it, then learn to code, right? No, learn how to use hashtags better. Learn how to find things learn how to make things trend. Right? You look at the side, freaking James Gunn is trending right now. You tweet something about James Gunn or relate it to it, it's going to have more eyes on it. More likely to get somebody to look at it. If you're talking about, there's SEO for you, right? If you want to have people read your comic book, do that. And that's just on Twitter, right? Also, you might want to consider that Comicsgate does have a lot of people out there. Comicsgate does have a lot of people out there. And if you make a comic book that doesn't seem forced diversity is not diversity. It's right? It's tiresome. It doesn't feel natural. It doesn't feel organic. Instead of demonizing the comic skaters, maybe consider, you don't have to reach out across the aisle, but maybe just try and make something that's a little bit more appealing to what they would like. And that doesn't mean Nazis walking the streets, because I don't think that's what comic skaters in general like. I think it's just the idea of, look, I'm not going to try and win some kind of a social media war. It's never going to work. Just ask Patton Oswalt. Just ask Sarah Silverman. It's never going to work. It's never going to work. Instead of trying to win some award for nicest guy, just be what you are. Be a comic book writer. Be the best comic book writer. Write good stuff. And try and get Marvel or DC or whoever. Do it through Image, where you're spending your own money. If you believe in what you're doing, do it through Image. Do it through some other company. Do it. Make a comic book that is going to appeal to a wide berth of audience. It's going to appeal to the audience that you want to do, and make sure that it's good. It's as simple as that. Because I'll tell you right now, a gay person who will read, and I know this firsthand, they don't like names mentioned, but I know it firsthand. If a gay man reads a comic book that somebody says, indicates whatever, implies, is for a gay audience, but it looks forced, it looks like it's just, what is this? I'm specifically talking about the Cena Grace comics at this point. The Cena Grace Iceman comics. When it feels forced, look at it and be like, this isn't fun. This looks like a rom-com. This isn't the Iceman that I used to know. And I can assure you, the gay guys don't care that he's gay or not. If he's gay, okay, cool. They're trying to appeal to me. That gets them looking. You want to keep him? Don't make it a freaking boy magazine, because they're not boys. That came out wrong. Understand it or you don't. What I'm saying is, make it good. It could still be Iceman, but he dates guys instead of girls. That's not hard to do. I don't think that's hard to do. Maybe the Iceman character just simply isn't that interesting, in your opinion. I think there are a lot of Iceman fans who would disagree. Look, I said my piece. Blaming the fans. Blaming people who complain about something. Look, maybe you just don't need to be on Twitter. Maybe you should go the Donny Cates route. I don't know. But honestly, it is extremely immature to blame the fans. I know this personally. It is immature to blame the fans. Simply look at it and say, oh, either this is something I can use or this is something I can't use. This seems like a valid criticism. This just seems like a whiny little bitch. You know which one to pay attention to, right? This I can possibly work with. Are there enough people who say this? Is it worth trying to work with this? You have to decide. But a tweet like this is simply going to cause more people to unsubscribe to you. Right? That's all that it's going to do. I've unsubscribed. I've unfollowed, whatever the hell it's called on Twitter, plenty of creators who I just look at and I'm like, this guy's not giving me, I'm here to see what they're going to put out next. There's something to think about. The only reason why I follow people, for the most part, either I like the individual and maybe they put a couple of good tweets out, whatever, blah, 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 blah. But if you're a comic book creator, artist, or writer, maybe for the most part, I don't care what you got to say. There are a few people who I do. Most of the times, like with Dan Slott, I could care less the nonsense that he puts out. Most of the stuff he puts out is just silly, superficial, blah, 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 whatever stuff. But I do want to know what new comic books he's going to put out. And every so often he puts that up there, right? Tony Isabella, exact same thing, right? Sometimes I just look at some of his stuff and I'm like, dude, really? Really? You're so hateful. Why? Where all the anger? Show me on the Hawkman doll who hurt you and where they touched you, because wow. But for the most part, I really want to see what he's going to put out next because I really love his writing, Gail Kim, it's best of both worlds. She is a freaking hysterical human being. I love her tweets. And I'm pretty sure she's a little bit of a bear. But I also really want to see what she's going to put out next, what comic book she's going to put out next. Because I also love her comic books. So, sometimes you can have the best of both worlds. Tim Seeley doesn't seem like the person who's got the Gail Kim thing. And he's not as bad as a Isabella or Slott. But you're at that point on the fence where you could fall either way. My recommendation, get down and walk away from the goddamn fence. All right? Just get away from the freaking fence. Nobody needs that fence. It's not helping anybody. But for the love of God, we don't need to be acting like this. We don't need to be blaming the fans. That's just advice from a 46-year-old. I don't know how old he is. It's advice from a 46-year-old who has learned, I don't know, maybe the hard way, maybe just the not fun way, that you have to take the comment section with a bit of levity, with a bit of salt, and just kind of let it go. Just let it go. Because you don't know who the people are who are sending you these tweets. They could be somebody who's confused about something. They could be somebody who's angry about something. They could be somebody who's insulted. They could be somebody who misread something that you wrote or said or did. They could be somebody who means well, but they're not good at, getting the words out in a tweet in, what is it now, 244 characters or less, whatever the hell it is, right? Excuse me. It could be somebody with, somebody who's not a native English speaker. I talk with non-English or non-native English speakers all the time, and I teach them, right? And I can tell you for certainty, sometimes they say things that they don't mean to say, For crying out loud. When I was in Saudi Arabia, I was just thinking about this last night. When I was in Saudi Arabia, there's an Egyptian guy who was curious about this, that, and the other thing, blah, 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 about my life. And one of the other Egyptian guys, the guy who's the student counselor, he met my wife and I in the grocery store one time. I was grocery shopping with my wife the one time, and he was there just by himself. And he met my wife, and he's like, and he went back and he told people, it's like, oh, Bill's wife is black. Wow. Oh, I didn't see it. Because it's different out there. I don't think that he was racist, but it's definitely not normal for a white person, and Egyptians consider themselves white. They're not. Not yet. Maybe one day they will be. But in the meantime, America doesn't consider them white. White people don't consider them white, so they're not white. No, it is what it is. But yeah, you can think whatever you want. But my point is, they wouldn't marry a black person. It would be like, you have to be a very low-class person to marry a black person. Is it racism? Yes. Is it racism? No. Is it racism? I don't freaking know. It is what it is. It's just who they are. So the one guy, he goes and he asked me, his name was Sharif. He goes and he asked me like 100 different questions, right? More like 8. But the final question he asked me is, why you marry black? Right? I wasn't angry because I sat and I thought, I'm introspective, and I try and think, like, why would he ask such a question? And all these thoughts, they went through my head and whatnot. And it was actually a Somali friend, coworker and friend, who was in the teacher's room with me. And this guy's a teacher. Sharif was a teacher. I'm a teacher. And this guy, Hamza, was a teacher. Hamza's the Somali guy. And he's like, in America, while, yes, there is some racism, we don't necessarily think it is marrying down, if a white person marries a black person, or marrying up if a black person marries a white person. It's not like that. It's like you can actually marry because you love someone, because you know them and you really like. And he's just explaining things. It's like, it's not considered abnormal in America, right? And I was there in 2011. I think, it was the year 2011 when this teacher asked me this. I don't know if it's the same anymore. I don't know. I'm smart enough to know what I don't know. But I do know that I had a choice. I could have just blasted him as a goddamn racist. Or I could have thought about what I was saying. And Hamza decided to explain the stuff. And I just kind of let it go. I'm like, yeah, he did a good job. I'm not going to say anything different than what he said for the most part, But yeah. And maybe Sharif understood and maybe he didn't. Maybe he is a racist. I don't know. I do know that if he was white and he asked that question, he would have been dubbed a racist in a goddamn heartbeat. That's why I say Sharif isn't white. He's Egyptian. That's not white. That's Arab. You know what I'm saying? That's Middle Eastern. It's MENA, because it's technically part of Africa. Egypt is part of Africa, even though they say, well, technically we're Middle Eastern. Continent looks like Africa to me. It is what it is. I'm not right. I'm not wrong. It is what it is. But like, this is the world that we live in. You have a choice to determine if someone is good or evil or somewhere in between, like the rest of us are. Is Bill Cosby an evil person? The act of raping women is evil. The act of raping anybody is freaking evil. I mean, don't rape people. Hello? Do you not know? Don't rape people. The act of cheating on your wife, not great. The act of sleeping with underage women, probably not too good. Adopting them and then banging them like hardcore raunchy orgies, probably not a good thing. But I still love all those people. I love Gandhi. I love Martin Luther King Jr. I love Bill Cosby. Because they've done more good than they've done bad. And I'm not the type of person to demonize somebody just because of this, that, or because of one mistake or one group of mistakes, one mistake in this category of mistakes, right? I believe that these people have done far more good. Does that excuse the bad that they've done? No. But I also don't believe in a punitive system where we just say, oh, they solved world hunger, they, brought about world peace, they brought us all to a single currency and ended racism and whatnot, but he beat his kids, so we're going to send him to jail for that. Well, are you going to make him emperor of the world after he serves his term? Because I don't see anything about a reward for all the good that this person's done. I only see a punishment for the bad. And if you believe that that's the way the world should work, well, it's your freaking world, because that's what you have. So you shouldn't be so angry. But you are, aren't you? Because angry people are going to be angry. Haters are going to hate. Racists are going to be racist. And blue-haired screamy people are going to be blue-haired screamy people. This is the world that we live in. Where sometimes people just simply aren't satisfied. Where sometimes people do complain about things that others and maybe even the rest of us will say, what the frig? But most importantly, we live in a world where people just want to be offended, because offense is a form of currency in this world. It allows you to be the first speaker. The more offended you are, the more reasons you have to be offended, right? Where things that used to be a strength, a source of strength and pride, are now considered a crutch. A world where, because let's be realistic, the fact that I said that I love Bill Cosby, there's going to be a whole bunch of people who are so offended by that. They're going to think that I'm making a joke out of raping women. They're going to think all sorts of things. Clip me and post it and meme it and whatever. The trick is you have to not be afraid of being canceled. And this is something that I learned from somebody like Dave Chappelle, somebody like Joe Rogan, right? People can make mistakes. People can do a bad thing or a category of bad things and do it multiple times, but they can be good people. It shouldn't disqualify everything else good that they've done. It simply shouldn't, because then we have a society where we're worried about it making a mistake rather than intent on doing good. This is just my opinion. And either that opinion is valuable to you, or it holds some kind of weight, or it's not. But it doesn't change the fact that it's just a thought. And with that, I leave you to your comic books. I hope that I have explained this well, and if this video receives any kind of real love, if I deem that, people found some value in this, I'll do a few more of these, comic book related. because I would like to do more stuff with comic books, but it gets boring giving the same reviews to the same comic books all the time. So it is what it is. Anyway, guys, I'll talk to you later. Professor Bill, Comic Book University. Class dismissed.